Welcome to the Sunshine Parenting Podcast. My name is Audrey Monkey, and I am your host. Here at Sunshine Parenting, I research, write, speak, and interview podcast guests on the topics of parenting, summer camp, and happiness. In this episode, episode 21, this is going to be a little different from usual. Today, I'm actually interviewing my 19-year-old daughter, Charlotte, about her college application and college experience thus far. The reason I decided to do this interview is because of all my children, Charlotte had probably the most complicated college application process and was the first of my kids to actually not end up at a college that was the best match for her. Her experience, I know from talking to a lot of people, is not unique. In fact, several of her friends have decided after their first year at whatever college they ended up at to switch schools. So today I'm just interviewing Charlotte and just want to kind of share her wisdom after experiencing applying to college and the whole process in hopes that we together can help some people going through the process right now just learn from our experience a bit. So Charlotte, welcome to the Sunshine Parenting Podcast.
Thank you, Sunshine Parent.
You could probably call me Mom, since that's what you call me.
That's not professional.
Okay. Well, today, why don't you just start with sharing a little bit about just sort of what you were thinking when you went into your whole college application process. What was it like?
Well, I went to a very academically rigorous high school, and they really encourage people to go to small liberal arts schools, mostly on the East Coast. So basically they want you to get into the best possible school that you can, probably for their stats, but also they kind of brainwash you into thinking that you need to try and get into the school with the lowest acceptance rate that you can with your scores and your GPA and stuff like that.
So as a parent, Charlotte, if you don't know our family, is the third of my kids. So I went through the college process with her two older sisters before, but because they weren't at the same kind of school, there was not any of the infrastructure that Charlotte had at her school in terms of college application. So our college application process with our oldest daughter, really, I jokingly referred to my sister, her aunt, as our college counselor and sort of asked her what she thought because she had toured some schools with her daughters, my nieces. And basically my oldest daughter just figured out a few schools to apply to. We live in California, so she applied to a couple of UCs. And then we toured and looked at a couple of other schools, including Santa Clara University, which she ended up really liking, and she ended up going there. And then with my second oldest daughter, it was a very similar experience. She sort of knew of a few schools she was interested in, and we looked at them. She did an overnight stay at Westmont College and ended up going there. But it was a very, I don't know how to explain it, just a very different process than with Charlotte. We started getting invited to these special college application meetings early in her junior year, or maybe it could have even been at the end of her sophomore year, but I think junior year. And they got us on this website that I really want to say I would highly recommend to avoid if possible. It was called Naviance. So Charlotte, tell our listeners what Naviance is.
Naviance is a magical place where your GPA is there, all your test scores, everything is logged in, and you can search a college and see where you fall, like from other applicants from your high school. So if someone with like your GPA, you can look if they got into a college you want to go to and compare yourself to everyone else who's applied from your school in previous years and see how they did, if they got in, if they got waitlisted, or if they got rejected. So if your dot falls way below everything, it'll be red, and that means you're a goner.
Well, it just means like don't even try to apply. Or
yeah, it just means far reach.
So in any case, now as I look back on this, even at the time, I remember thinking, this is just weird to be calling my daughter this dot on this graph. And I also thought it just really promoted this whole idea of what's the hardest place to get into, as opposed to what's kind of a good place that's going to be a good fit culturally for the kids. So, while Charlotte had this Naviance thing, I was meanwhile looking up and sending her these lists like the happiest colleges in America and where's the most beautiful views, or I don't know. There's all these different college lists out there. But do you remember I sent you one about kind of something about like people's mental health and where the happiest kids are?
Yeah.
But Charlotte, she calls it being brainwashed, and that's a little extreme, but it really is true that a lot of our conversations during the college application process, I would suggest a place and she would discount it because why would you discount certain schools?
I never really did, though.
A little bit.
Like, you just think it, but I never actually said that. Like, oh, it's not a good enough school.
Now, you would tell me about they have too high of an acceptance rate. I remember you telling me that.
No, I would never say that, but I would check it.
Okay, well, we don't know exactly what the conversation was, but I just remember there was...
Like, I probably could have reached if I wanted to further to get into a harder school.
Right.
For example.
No, for sure. No, that is true. That is true. You really wanted to... Actually, what I remember is you really wanted to be done with the process.
Yeah, I did.
So one of the things that Charlotte decided to do was to do early decision and early application. And that ended up being all the applications you did, right?
Yeah.
And... Four applications, and you did them all in the fall.
Yep.
And she knew by December where she was going to be going. And she was really excited about that. And I have to say that part of her process was really quite good because she didn't have a lot of the stress that some of her friends had going all the way into the spring and wait lists and a lot of that stuff, right?
Yeah.
So that part, do you recommend the early application thing?
Yeah, that was so nice. Because, my senior year of high school was the only one I enjoyed.
Oh, because you didn't have this college thing looming?
Yeah, it was free.
Oh, okay. Except for let's talk about this other thing that you did that none of your siblings had ever done. Talk about your SAT prep and the time you spent on that.
Oh, well, I do not recommend this, but I took a big SAT prep class, which was every Sunday, I think in the spring of my junior year. And it was 4 or 5 hours with this guy and a lot of people from my grade. So that would be most of my Sunday. And then we took a ton of practice tests and he just taught us all the tricks and stuff. And I also had Saturday classes at my high school every other week. So I would sometimes have school every day of the week my junior year.
So it was, she did end up getting a good score on the test. But to me, it seemed like it was kind of a high cost to the outcome. And I remember it being fall of your senior year. Is that not right? Was it really
No, it was
junior year?
It was junior year. I didn't take the SAT senior year.
Oh, okay. So
I was done by that point.
Okay. Anyway, so in an already quite busy year, I know junior year is typically known as kind of one that kids really have a lot of work during. She also did this SAT prep course. And at the time, it was sort of what everybody was doing at her school. So we said, okay, yeah. She wanted to do it.
If not, with a private tutor.
Or either they'd do this class or they'd do a private tutor.
Yeah.
So then I also, just going through this experience, it was so odd because I started thinking about how different it is, the process, again, when you don't go to a private school with all these kind of extra things that they're telling you about how to prep for these things. And I remember just thinking, is this test really testing what it's supposed to anymore? I don't know. But in any case, Charlotte did fine on the SAT and she had good grades. And lo and behold, she got into all the schools that she applied to early, didn't you?
Yeah.
And you didn't apply to any crazy ones where your dot was way out or anything.
No.
So you just kind of picked one. And she actually had spent a lot of time looking at different things and was kind of interested in pursuing her running at a school. Maybe that was one of the things she enjoyed, cross country her senior year, and was thinking she wanted to do that. So that kind of played into your decision, didn't it?
Yeah. On paper, Emory had everything I wanted. And I had a good year. I was happy.
I know. Well, we're getting to that.
You just make it sound like it was a miserable time.
No. I'm not trying to insinuate that at all. So one of the things that is very common, I know, and I think Charlotte had a similar experience. The first semester for her was pretty good. She made some good friends. She really liked her roommate, who she had connected with ahead of time. There were a lot of good things going on. But I think the intensity of being on a team, wasn't that kind of a lot?
Yeah. It was just hard to like have a social life outside of it and want to do other things, but not be able to do anything. And we were gone most weekends, and I just didn't like it that much. I didn't like the team like a lot.
Right.
But that was like my whole social scene.
Right, was being on the team. So I think also another thing that we have to remember is that you also started the year sick.
Oh yeah.
You had
But that didn't matter. I had a good first semester.
I know you did. So then over Christmas holiday, she made a really good decision, which was to not continue doing the sport. So her sport would have been track during the spring. And so we talked about that decision, and that ended up being a really good decision for you, didn't it?
Yeah. My second semester was even better than the first one.
Yeah, it was completely better.
Yeah.
So anyway, so she had, it really, I mean, never did she complain about school. She actually really liked it. She was making friends. She and her roommate got along, and there were a lot of good things about it. And then second semester was even better. We went back and visited with the family and saw everything and really liked it. So this was the funny part of her whole experience, and very unusual, because I know a lot of kids sort of right from the beginning sort of get to a school and decide it's not their match for them or whatever, and kind of decide really early on that they want to transfer or whatever. But Charlotte didn't have that experience at all. She actually came home from the summer fully planning to return, didn't you?
Yeah, and I was like kind of sad to leave.
Yeah, and
I was like ready to go back.
Right. So you had this whole experience where you were like, you'd had a really good second semester and loved your roommates and had a really good plan, had joined a sorority.
Yep, it's true.
So then we were getting ready to, I can't remember the exact thing. I feel like I was up at camp doing staff training or something.
Yeah, everybody was gone from my house except for my brothers. So I was home with my brothers. They don't talk to me a lot. So I was just sitting in my room doing a lot of thinking, pondering life. And one of my friends texted me, like, the Boulder application is still open. And I had always joked about transferring to Boulder because Colorado is so cool, and the school spirit and everything about it just always appealed to me. But it had always kind of been like a joke I would make to my family and my friends. But then I was like, I'm just going to apply. Like, why not? With my friend, we both applied. And then I told my mom later after I had applied.
But she called to tell me that she had what she called a quarter life crisis. But I told
it was a quarter life crisis.
But you were too young to have.
I was just sitting in my room like, oh my gosh, what have I done with my life? Like, I'm going to go to Boulder.
Anyway,
that's it.
So I was fully supportive of that. I actually think, knowing her personality.
Yeah, my mom was like, sounds good.
Yeah.
Good plan.
But
my dad is like, what is going on?
Yeah, but I think part of it is, when you think about, and this is the part that I guess my one point for this podcast and things that I want people to learn from is, rather than starting with a chart of Naviance, I think a better place to start is, what are the things you really enjoy? What kind of environment do you like? What, kind of place do you think would just be kind of a good match for you and be a lot of kids who are like similar to you?
The travel time to get there.
Yeah, that was a big factor for me. I always, we live on the West Coast, and to me, I always thought, gosh, if you can find a school that you like that's relatively similar, academically or whatever, closer, that is certainly a lot easier, at least for our family, in terms of traveling home for holidays and that kind of thing. And so the distance, I think, was a factor that, we realized that during that first year was going to be a challenge, only because with kids still at school at home, it wasn't like we could come visit her much. We only got there once the whole year. And so, yeah, the distance was one of the things. And then I think also Charlotte is good at finding her tribe and finding friends. And she actually found a really good group there. But overall, the whole scene, once she was there, she realized that she was more of an anomaly, I guess. There weren't as many kind of outdoorsy kind of people.
Yeah, it was hard to find the friends that I really loved. I had 3 friends by the end of the year, and I loved them so much. But we are not like the typical Emory students at all.
So I think, but it was just interesting to me that Charlotte could sort of after she was separated from it for a bit, have this kind of epiphany, I will call it, of just realizing that she would be fine there. She could have stayed there for all of college. And
I could have been pretty happy.
Yeah, yeah, totally. But I was really proud of you for actually kind of realizing and taking that time to think about just what might be even a better fit for you.
Yeah.
So then I was hesitant for her. She found out she got into Boulder shortly after, maybe a couple weeks after, and I was really hesitant for her to jump into another thing. I had actually, and this is my other point of this podcast, I have now become a huge proponent of gap years. I know a lot of kids are doing them, and I think they're a really good idea. And especially for Charlotte, who is on the younger side for her grade in school, I think it could have been beneficial. Although what she ended up doing is taking a gap semester this year to start off this year. And so, why don't you talk about what you decided to do before you kind of transferred to a new school?
Well, at the very end of my first semester at Emory, I had like my first minor breakdown to my mom because I didn't know what I wanted to study at Emory and what I really wanted to do there. And I had to start like signing up for classes that were relevant to something. And I just didn't have much direction. And my mom was like, just leave school, take a gap semester. And I was like, no, like I'm already here. I don't want to have to like start over at Emory. But then she had sent me an email like later that day of all these links to things I could do, but I just ignored it. But this summer, after I had my Boulder quarter life crisis, then I pulled up that email that she sent me a really long time ago, and one of the links was for Outward Bound Costa Rica. It was like the first link, I think, and I was like, sounds pretty fun. Checked out the website, and I was doing it.
Wow, I didn't even actually, you know what? I didn't even know that that's how that transpired. But
yeah, I know you didn't know that.
It's good to know that.
It was you that found it.
I thought that all of my ideas weren't very good, but turns out
they were good later. Just
later. Okay.
Wrong time.
Another point we didn't even know we were making is that sometimes ideas that you share just pop up months later or even years later. Maybe our kids listen to us after the fact.
Well, I didn't delete the email, so it was like I knew it was kind of relevant.
Oh, cool. Okay, well, that's good. In any case, Charlotte, so this, we all really kind of liked this plan. So it turns out that she decided to do this semester-long Outward Bound in Costa Rica, which, by the way, was really a great kind of reflection time. Because tell a little bit about kind of what that whole program was about.
Well, there wasn't any main purpose to the program except for just doing fun outdoor activities. So I was mostly like excited for that going in, just to have a break from the world and just play outside, really, like surf and hike. We hiked from coast to coast of Costa Rica, and river raft and scuba dive and sea kayak and just all these fun things. But I also ended up meeting like 4 other people who are so awesome and kind of in the exact same situation as me, where we don't really know what we're doing with our lives. So we were all just hanging out outside for 85 days. That's pretty much what we did.
Well, I think you left out a part. They were hanging out outside for 85 days in pretty kind of rough circumstances. Like they were covered in
I don't like to think about it.
Anyway,
I've already blocked that out.
There was an element of really kind of
It was definitely rough in it, a little bit.
Yeah, and kind of pushing your body to extremes with hiking, with
always
heavy packs.
Always sweaty, always gross.
Yeah, never warm
always
showers.
Always covered in bites. I had some rashes, heat rashes. Always looked pretty bad.
But along with that, they were completely unplugged for the entire time. So figure these college-age kids out in the middle of the jungle in Costa Rica or, wherever they were. And all they did was tell each other their life stories, and they had lots of time to read and journal, and somebody had a guitar. So it was, to me, kind of the ideal circumstances to just spend some time just, stepping back from your regular life and really evaluating. So what was that? How did that feel for you and for the other people on the trip? Like, do you think it was a time that kind of helped them clarify sort of some things?
Well, I think a lot of people went into it like thinking they would like figure out what they wanted to study and like do with their lives in that sense, but I don't think that's really what we figured out. But for me, at least, I just kind of, like, definitely grew more appreciative of just everything we have, and just, I don't know, we met so many people in, like, really rural communities, so that was a huge part for me, just seeing how, like, a large majority of the world lives in comparison to how I live, and how, like, I take things for granted, like a shower, for example. Like, I never really appreciate it, but I definitely do now. And just, yeah, I don't know. And I also learned I am definitely, like, a really happy, better person when I'm just outside and don't have my phone.
So, all in all, I think it was funny because the trip, there were some bad weather and some hardships and some difficulties with a few of the leaders. So it wasn't like this
It wasn't a great company.
Yeah, well,
I'd go somewhere else if I were. Yeah.
But in any case, so we're not necessarily.
I just got extremely lucky with my group.
So, but I really think the main thing that I love about it is you had been on this kind of a grind and treadmill for all of high school and then your first year of college.
Yeah, just work, school, tests.
Mm-hmm. It was just sort of this constant
time to play.
And yeah, but it was, yes, I think so. And
it was fun.
But so I was really happy that she did that. But I think, and it was fine. It actually, her plan is working out just fine. That she did her gap before this restart at a new school semester. But what do you think about, like, gap semesters or gap years before you start college? What do you think about that? Weren't some of the kids on your program going to college?
Yeah, most of them were in between high school and college. I think it's definitely beneficial, especially being young for my grade. But yeah, it's just all I've ever done for my whole life is school. So it's nice to just take a break and not have to worry about anything like that. And now I'm actually, like, more excited for school and to go back to it.
That's really exciting. And then we're extra excited.
Really excited.
Her friend, the one that she, it was a different friend, I think. Well, she has a couple different friends thinking about coming to Boulder. But anyway, one of her friends who actually started out at Georgetown, which, as we know, is one of those
very
schools.
Prestigious.
It's very prestigious, and many people love Georgetown, just like many people love Emory, and those are great schools, and so we're not disparaging either of those schools. It's just the whole thing about
Eagles.
finding a good match, and I think that was what was missing for Charlotte, and what I'm finding out several of her friends in the whole college application process.
Well, I think it's hard because schools on paper, it's just like everyone sounded pretty okay to me, and I don't think you can really know what everybody's like until you go there.
That's
like
true.
That's very hard.
Okay, so if you're now giving advice to someone who's trying to figure out where to apply, what would you tell those college juniors and seniors about just from what you've learned from this experience? What would you advise they do as they start this process?
I would say talk to people that you like that are older than you, already in college, and if they like it, then you'll probably like it. And visit them and really know the college before you say you're going there. I don't know. Go to a place that you think you'll fit in, like city-wise, like everything. I don't know. But I'd say people you know, why not go to school with them if you like them and they like it?
Yeah, that was funny because during Charlotte had a similar high school experience to my high school experience, and she has really, really good friends from high school.
We actually went to the same high school.
That's how similar the experience was.
Very similar.
And I remember, and she remembers me telling her this, that, you know what, it doesn't really matter where you go to college, but you should try to go with one of your good friends. Do you remember me telling you that?
Yeah, you're just a genius. You're all-knowing.
Okay, Char. Well, I'm older than you, so shouldn't I
just
have a little bit more
sunshine
knowledge?
parenting. I get it. You know everything.
Well, anyway, lo and behold, what's come around is one of her good friends who also found that her school wasn't a good match is also starting with her right now at Boulder. And we are just so excited about this, what we're calling College Restart or College 2.0. And
Take two.
We're hoping.
I'll let you know if I make it.
We're hoping this is the final.
Catch me on the next podcast when I've transferred elsewhere.
Yeah,
or dropped out.
But she looked it up, and I think that it's not possible to transfer again. Isn't that true?
Well, it's possible if I do it for next year.
Oh my gosh. Any case. So just the takeaways and what we hope you can learn from this kind of silly conversation between a mother and her daughter about our winding road to college applications and landing place is lesson number 1 is please don't look at the charts or the statistics, and instead, like Charlotte said, talk to some of the kids who you know who go to these places, visit them, stay overnight, go to a class or two, meet some of the kids, just kind of get that feel for if it's a good culture for what you're looking for. And then I also really want to promote the whole gap year or gap semester idea, even regardless of what kind of experience. I think anything is good.
I think travel is really good.
Travel, but also what about your friend Emma, who did that internship where she worked really hard for a company?
Yeah, but she was just like at home.
Well,
she didn't love that.
Okay, but I'm just saying, I actually think really good job experience.
Yeah.
Travel, learning about the world, all those things I think are really positive. And I've been telling Charlotte and her friends who will listen to me, and sometimes they listen to me all along, that there are
the
many...
genius sunshine parenting.
Oh my goodness. That so many adults, much, much older than these 18-year-olds applying to college, still haven't figured out what they want to do with their lives. And so for people to expect an 18-year-old...
Well, everybody asks 18-year-olds.
I know.
Probably the most common asked question.
I know. So, okay, we have another point now. I'm going to have to put in the show notes all of our points. But another point is just stop asking kids where they're going to college.
Or what they want to do.
What they want to do.
Well,
right?
I guess that's a fair question, but I don't know.
What about what if when people ask you that, you guys have a good comeback?
Like what?
Like, well, what do you want to do? Back to those adults who haven't figured it out yet either.
Ooh, you got him.
I don't know. In any case, so I think we've had some really, really good points here. And you've also just gotten to see just like the respect that I get in my own home and how we get to kind of have some laughs about when I think I have some good advice or might know something.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Sunshine Parenting Podcast. I really enjoyed talking with Charlotte and definitely got probably the most laughs I've ever had during a podcast interview. I am putting show notes and links to other articles that I've written about the college application process and advice to give our kids before they go to college. And I will put all of those in the show notes for episode 21. So if you'd like to see those, visit sunshine-parenting.com and search for episode 21. For this episode, I want to leave you with one of my favorite quotes from Theodore Roosevelt. Comparison is the thief of joy.